Today in the morning, I was able to wake up, but this time I was not able to cook breakfast at all. So I used my get out of jail free card and I ate two burritos today. And finally, I took that extra like 3 minutes of sleep and I woke up around 6:40 a.m. and then I made those two burritos. In the 0 week period at school, I split my time between two groups. The first initial one was a day one friend group, and the other one was a random three-person friend group of whom I joined. I think for the first friend group, I did approach them and I threw my basic fastball, such as "How's your day? What do you think about this?" And it went mostly basic, and there was reciprocation, so this was pretty great. I did strike out when three other people came back, of whom I do know, but and the original things I did want to say veered off, so I had to adapt at this point. Topics were switched quite a bit, so I did hesitate pretty much, but I struggled to come up with something. But I think my improvement here is that when these two familiar friends came from last year, the things that they said about the PE teacher and the things that they have going on with their own sports is that I think I was able to throw the first slider this time and it went good. And I asked, like, this PE teacher is pretty kind. Like, I had this one last year, so just be careful though. So I threw that slider and it went pretty excellent, I'll be real honest. But the next group that I also eventually went to were freshman people, and they're more calmer. And I did my basic fastballs, like how this group is doing. And since they're not as established in the school for like 3 years, I did the basics of how was your day, how's it going, and about this school, about the teacher. And like I think that these went pretty great. What I realized is that the lesson here in the second group is that they were more open, not because other groups are closed, but rather because of what I call my own projection. The improvement here is that I took myself far too seriously in the first group, and no wonder I was unable to like speak and I was a little bit awkward. The thing for improvement here is just to literally ask them of what's going on, but most importantly, be a little lighter and ask less questions, as awkwardness is natural and it's okay to share it and it's fine. But in the metaphorical pitches, I did throw about 6 basic fastball pitches of how's the day and the regenerative questions, the one slider of adapting to the actual conversation, and about 10 question basic fastballs. I did forget that polite request at the end, though. But that awkwardness is a sign that we're getting better, we're showing up, we're actually doing something and working for ourselves. That's important there. But the best thing I could do here is just talk. That is all it is. Just keep going. We don't have to take everything seriously. For Spanish, the teacher made us do the practice of como te llamas on paper. The teacher asked each other to name each other as practice. And later, we did a group activity to answer questions on paper. I have a classmate who's named Jude, who's a little bit shy, so I offered to be his initial partner for the activity. And for the activity, I also used Italian for extra practice, such as se llama, si chiama, and su amigo, il suo amico. And I wonder how she'll react when she gets that folder. She later announced participation and why it's important that we try. People answered the activity questions in front of the class, and I participated about 2 times, but I veered off the assignment by using gustar instead of like mi película favorita es, but I still remained correct because I said me gusta and then the movie name. On random questions the teacher asked, people struggled to answer in the yo form, which is pretty surprising, but I just put full answers. But thankfully, my teacher corrected me when I was speaking about food. Me gusta beber café americano and Starbucks, but it was supposed to be saying Starbucks. It was mostly calm and not much trouble happened. People did struggle trying to pronounce like certain Spanish words, and people did have trouble trying to translate literally in that way. But at this time, phones were inside caddies earlier, but I was so distracted that I didn't even realize time ran out at this point, just trying to answer her questions after. This time it was a little bit fun, but it was mostly silent at this point, and the teacher eventually made us collect our phones, and then we went our own way. And for period two, while walking to English class, the security guard thanked me for showing a vape. That was in the restroom, and I went to Davin along the way since he dried water on me while I was in the stall. Sadly, he has first lunch, and later in English class, the teacher announced expectations once I got there and showing up to work early, along with schedule changes. Everyone even had a duplicate English class, so they had to leave sadly. The teacher also announced that phone caddies and admin's requirements will not act as a phone PD and will just call security instead. Seating accommodations will depend, but she says she is seating chart forms for groups naturally, and there's even a class from 2023 that managed to form that, but still mentions the importance of work and coming on time. Later, the teacher announced the syllabus, numbers, and overlapping literature from English to US history, the books and movies that we'll read too. And one of my friends, I think, was also distracted, but everybody was mostly quiet and announced her lenient ways of work. And she doesn't assign homework as a main objective, but one thing that I heard was her philosophy is that if we don't practice, then we don't get her. If use the sports metaphor. She expects us to solely improve, but says that AI is not allowed. But she did an extra credit mention though, but says that it is for rare opportunities only and expects linear mastery by assigned assignments only. And accepts 2-day late work. She then announced on a goals poster from goals this year as a junior and decorate a large page in their respective descriptions. And each goal has a symbolic image, do an MLA heading on the back and the printer paper. I learned for the MLA format that it must be on the date that it is due, not the date that we are doing it. So later, the class became more social as she transitioned to the paper activity, and I did mine in a 5 stars banner. Period 3 today was math, and the teacher said we have 179 days left, announcing next weekend works will be light mostly, but students said who do have AP classes will be in a lot of work, he says, and today is a syllabus, and we learned that we're going to be learning about function inverses, logarithms, polynomials, and exponents, and second semester has statistics, trigonometry of a triangle, and unit circles. What is required are notebooks, but that's optional, and homework along with daily quizzes along with the math workbook, while late work has far less credit. He said it is up to us to make up missed tests, and he said he had trouble tracking people last year to make up tests. He said cheating is not allowed, but technically, but if you're copying from someone for a basic homework assignment for for this answer on that, but if you don't memorize it on a test or quiz, you're gonna fail. But later, we continued on the math assignment from yesterday and saw how to work on prime numbers using 4 fours. He said he isn't worried if we don't complete it, as he isn't grading as heavy yet. But the next activity is a puzzle for 100 points and mostly teamwork and participation if we know how to do one. I know I was not able to solve the puzzle pieces and the game myself, but our team did not do as much either, even though they did try their best. But the least that I did was that I was able to name and call the challenge that my teacher was calling to name all my partners to get the puzzle picture and help complete it. But we were not able to connect it all on time. I did ask for quick help later on from requesting how to find the hypotenuse to the adjacent to the opposite, and I was relieved of how to do so. And those 4 people, credits to you guys: Chelsea, Rachel, Alfred, Adrian. As for period 4, I almost made it late today as I was running from a crowded restroom, but I made it. And for science, we continued decorating our name tags with decorations. And the fun part is that she even gave free fruit juices because there's so much in her garden. I was even given a passion fruit, and it tastes incredibly strong. The juice and pulp tastes sour though, and I saw a friend in this class who's also I met from Instagram. Next was an essay that we have to do doing vocabulary for part A and text for part B, and we have to put our phones in the caddy. Annoying questions that we have is that we have to write the question down before answering it, so that was pretty annoying to do so, but we did have to write our names too. We were later introduced to a lizard-like animal who has a growing list tail, and we can even lift him during class if we want to. He said he was born in 2015. He has a tail, and another one that is old. It's an old other one, which is a lizard, but from two parents. The teacher quoted big girth from dad and colorful top from mom, quote unquote, and said the class can lift him too when they're also busy working. But this time we tried California's water crisis for the activity that we had to complete. And about DNA, she said that she also has a smooth back for one of her lizards. And this one is another spike lizard that she also showed to us, and it shows variation. I realized is that this is an example of genetic variation. Animals adapt to their own environment. And I realized with this group today that I was talking to in the other side, I wanted to ask them to lunch, so I felt a little bit scared too, but I managed to do it anyway. And anyways, this class was mostly vibrant as we were finishing up our activity, and tomorrow we're going to finish that up for the rest. But sadly, though, as much as I wanted to join, I did end up successfully asking one of them. But with one of the other friends, I ended up striking out, well, in that baseball metaphor, physically. As one of my older friends from my older classes, tried to tap them like 3 times to talk to him, but they seemed closed off. So I'm not sure if they were misinterpreting, like I need to get through, please excuse me, or like if I'm actually trying to ask a question. But I'm just gonna say that's a little bit closed. But for lunch period, it didn't went quite odd because I think at the last time, my older friend from this time at the lunch, I think at the final end, strike me out while we were at the lunch table because in metaphor, even when I tapped them again, they did not respond back, so to speak. So I falsely assumed they're all going together as a team. So I decided to get something done with my essays and just walk away from the group. I have. I got that done real quick and I got that to a class I need to do so. But later, I actually saw the group, not with the person of who I was talking to earlier, and I was pretty excited to talk to them, but at least for my older friend, I eventually chose to leave at least that group as they were in the line. But later, when I went back to the group after I got that paper turned in, is that the older friend wasn't there. So I hung out with them, but I argue that this was mostly provincial, and I was actually not able to set up any pitches sadly with any of the people. And even before I went up to talk with another group, I falsely assumed they were older friends from my past classes. I believe this was Abby and another one, but they look completely similar people. They're doppelgangers, but they're not the same. But anyways, though, I did eventually leave that group. And this time for period 5, I entered English class with heavy feelings today, and I read the initial syllabus where we have to read, fill it out for an activity, and using the class's interactive stations such as notebooks, highlighters, and the activity that's connected. The overview is that we have to stand up and read activities. We're going to be doing stations, and the class was mostly calm. The teacher announced the syllabus, and the grades are done weekly, and this time she uses a digital notebook, no notebooks that we'll physically use, and late assignments are half credit. The teacher has a 4 strike system where the first one is a warning and the others are detentions. The class was ending, so she put reminders and she left. In 6th period, we did a Blooket game today, and it was mostly a trivia of yesterday. And it was pretty fun as I did not get top 1, 4, or 3 though, but I didn't win too much. But it was pretty fun stealing from Tad during Blooket though. And I also did a few other things. I joined another one later, and I also joked that there might be a Blooket World Series to whoever can answer the trivia about each other in this class. But we did Battle Royale next, and this next battle, I think I was a little bit too slow on the first question, which was asking like who won this Mario game. It was Diesel, I believe, but I answered too slow. But for another question, I was able to tie exactly 1.201 seconds to 1.201 seconds to my opponent. So we still kept our 2 labs, but I eventually lost though. And the funny thing is that Diesel was also the runners up, like 2 people left to challenge each other, but he lost too, and he claimed Blicket hacks. He's using Blicket hacks as a funny remark. But later, this time we went back on our actual introduction for the project, and we worked on our very first free draw on our SolidWorks design app. But anyways, though, moving back to the literal thing back on lunch, the major highlights for today is that in the morning, I need to improve by adapting to real-time conversation and real speed, but to also respect reciprocation at the end too. I also mentioned that in the video, I do need to improve specifically on how I do talk to people in terms of questions. So I'll leave that as that for now, but just go to the early part of this video where I mentioned. But the major thing that was a 2-prong confusing thing during this time, during the food hour, is that the other older friend who was from my class, who I was pretty excited to talk to, and even their friends too. But 3 times I tried to speak to them, but they still did not nudge. So they did not say anything. even as I walked with them. And they still seemed closed off. And at the lunch line, one of their BFs wanted to get to know him, so he seemed pretty funny, I'll be real honest. But I think because, number one, I mean, I did have to turn in some literal papers that I had on my hands. And number two, because the other girl isn't responding back at all. Like, not at all. But even though the other two are doing fine. And later, once I got to the group, I realized my assumption was wrong. She eventually went down to a different place, but they were still okay. But again, this is already an established group. I already came here late during lunch and I pinched my wrist, wasting valuable minutes because I had a bracelet on me. But as much as I do say it, like both of these people were pretty kind. I'll be really honest. And even all of their friends too. Think of this as the social version of the ABS challenge system. And I'm challenging my own personal pitch, and what I say is that after some talks with Ted about this, I'm going to call this call confirmed strikeouts because we did what we could do in those moments, and eventually I came back unlucky. So like I was even excited to before, I believe, during like science class just to be able to speak. But I know this might be a mistake, and I even question myself like, what if this is only a snapshot? And maybe I was a little bit pushy, I admit. Maybe what if it's like the benefit of the doubt? Like maybe they're just kind people. Maybe all four of them are really kind people, and that I am really welcome. But at the end, though, I'm calling this a strikeout because in the long term, there does not seem to be too much reciprocation, technically, especially with the other friend back in English who's also related to the class. But I don't think that taking this risk is worth it. I'll be honest. But this is only day two. We still need to improve as it goes on. As I said, guys, is that not too late to keep going. We still have to show up. And the thing is that even though I still have a lot of groups I can join, like I'm just taking the hard path and trying to find people in terms of a chosen manner of whom I think are compatible, or at least are stable in one single place. Even Ted told me it was difficult in metaphor, that I'd strike out most of the time with most groups in this environment. But beyond what was already going on, because this is more of a confusion about me, like my brain was just going all over the place. And sometimes it is what it is. And there's no one at fault in this case. The main case for our own social practice is that I need to stop taking things so seriously, as I said in the morning. A pitch is a metaphor, yes, but I don't need to be scared every second I'm talking to someone.